You're listening to the Masonic Light Podcast. Starring Pete Ruggieri, Larry Maris, and Jason Lewis. This podcast is not endorsed by any Grand Lodge, and the ridiculous ramblings of the hosts are their own. So sit back and enjoy some Masonic conversation without pretension. And now, here's your hosts, Pete, Larry, and Jason.
Hey, welcome. We're here at Masonic Light Podcast, episode 26. Episode 26 for you gringos. If Jason does this properly, he's going to put this at the beginning of the episode, and you're going to hear us talking with about 10 minutes of a hiss. Apparently, we had a bad channel on our mixer. But it was too good, and we're not going to rewrite it. So enjoy the hiss, but it gets better after the hiss.
It was Jack's channel, so we just turned Jack down, who's not here anyways.
Oh, so how you doing, Jason?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. How you doing, Larry?
Doing great. Thank you.
Oh, busy. So we're recording this on the 27th of March.
That's correct.
2017.
Be available April the 6th.
So that's probably one of the things we should include in the audio of the show. So people, when we talk about something that happened in the real world, that
it's on the format.
Well, nobody reads that, Larry. Our sponsor for the episode is myself, is MasonicScarves.com.
Awesome.
So I'd like to thank me for sponsoring the episode.
Thank you, Pete.
If any of you folks want to sponsor an episode, just drop us an email. It's like bird advertising. It's cheap. There we go. Oh, so Larry.
Yes.
What have you been doing Masonically in the past 2 weeks?
Yeah, actually been kind of busy attending things and missed it greatly when I wasn't available recovering from this goofball surgery I had. Last week, attended Goose and Gridiron. We had another very good crowd, had to put more tables on. Got kind of rowdy, and Haley, our waitress, had to yell at all the old guys for being too noisy. But we had a great attendance. That night, I also attended our fellowship night for Lamberton Lodge 476. But we have guys coming in from 43, so the fellowship thing is growing. We're not necessarily lodge conscious. So we had about 25 guys there, and it was a great function.
Alcohol really ties the room together.
Oh yeah. I'll tell you, there's a lot of beer at that night. Beer, pizza, hoagies. You better believe it.
I mean, you don't need alcohol to have fun, but I've yet to hear about a great Masonic event over salad. Like it just doesn't.
True. You know, Larry offered to buy me a beer that night, and I unfortunately didn't make it.
And consequently, I didn't drink a beer that night because you weren't there.
Hey, Larry, talk to the microphone, not to Jason.
Yeah.
Well, you can look at me with your eyes, but keep your mouth not pointing in my direction. Don't
Just
eat the microphone.
Keep it. All right. So
that's what I did. Oh yeah, PA Academy of Masonic Knowledge.
Tell us about the Pennsylvania Academy of Masonic Knowledge.
Oh, it was another great event. A lot of attendance. We had two great guest speakers. Dr. Oscar Alleyne was a guest speaker, and I do have an interview with him on tape that you're going to be playing sometime. Let me know because he wants to know when it's going to be on. So anyway,
so for you guys out of the area, we're really lucky that the Pennsylvania Academy of Masonic Knowledge, I guess, has a budget, and they bring in some big time speakers, and it is really good. The first speaker talked about not the sextant, how to find longitude.
Yeah.
The history of finding like longitude and why it was so important, so you don't wreck in the reefs and things on your ships. On land, it was pretty easy to determine longitude. But when you're at sea, and he explained the differing schools of thought between the guys that try to use the stars and the people that try to use time. So that was kind of neat.
Huh.
And
interesting.
Yeah, and early somebody had a clock that was within a second a month. This is back in the early 1700s. That's how accurate this handmade clock was.
Wow.
Pretty cool.
I think we should play Oscar this episode while it's current and fresh. So maybe later in the show we'll do that. He's a great guy too.
He is a great guy. And actually, he's going to come on the show. I just have to give him a time and a date and set it up, and he'd be more than happy to come on the show.
Anything else for you, Larry?
That's pretty much it. That was a busy 2 weeks for me.
Okay, you can go back to sleep. Jason, what's
I had Goose and Gridiron, and that was really about all I did Masonic. I've had a couple crazy weeks, and it's finally coming to an end.
Is your father-in-law still in town?
My father-in-law is home. He just arrived back in Arizona. He made it from here to Arizona in like 3 days. And my brother-in-law got married. So his wedding was good. And we also had an ill, my grandfather-in-law, who we lost just a couple days ago. So funeral is tomorrow.
Are people still looking for him? Or?
Yeah, they're still looking for him. Well, they're looking for him in heaven now. But so that's been going on. We've had a couple crazy family things, some happy, some sad. Not a Mason, but I'll tell you what, and then I'll give him a shout out. Maybe they listen to podcasts in heaven. But married for 71 years. He was 91 years old, right? World War II vet. Got ran over by a tank, screamed out in pain, got captured by the Germans, got put in the mines for 9 months. And one of our family members was just watching a documentary about the mines at the concentration camps they would put you in. And it was something like 100,000 prisoner of war detainees they put in these mines, and like 600 survived. So, he's one of 600 that survived this concentration camp and escaped, came home, didn't even go to like his platoon or his home base. He, hopped a ship.
Yeah, he had enough and came back to America.
He came home and he was like 90 pounds. And there happened to be a family reunion happen at the farm that they had down in Southern Lancaster County, and walked right up, and his wife didn't recognize him. And he walked up and he said, "Hey, I'm home. You need to call my commanding officer." And
that's awesome.
Yeah. So, he was just a man's man, and we lost him, and but he had a good run. So that, between that and the wedding, that's kind of occupied my life, and no time for Masonry aside from my normal Masonic vocation. So yeah, that's about it.
You made it to Grotto last night for the prime rib.
Oh yeah, I did make it to Grotto. Sunday nights are typically pretty easy for me to make it to. So yeah, that was nice.
We did have a good attendance too.
Yeah, I think Grotto. Yeah, the room was full.
Yeah,
people ate and drank a lot.
Yep.
I think everybody was really happy with the location and that place.
It is a good location, and the prime rib was out of this world.
I was dumb enough to be first in line, and so I got the part on the end that was charred like a. Yeah, it was a little bit overdone, but I'm sure by the time it got to the middle of the steer, it was pretty good.
It was nice to see you at Grotto. I know you were relaxing a little bit with your Grotto attendance, but I'm glad you were there. I didn't get to sit with you though.
Yeah, well,
I sat with our new prophet.
Oh, Mr. Jeff Moyer.
Yeah, Jeff Moyer. Can you believe how active I am? I've never been a first line signer for anybody in Blue Lodge. I've been a first line signer for a transfer. But Grotto was the first time I ever was a first line signer for somebody.
You'll get something for that from Grand Supreme Council.
Oh, nice.
So what I had a lot going on. I had Goodwin Council of Royal and Select Master Masons. I got elected to become principal conductor of work. So I get to wear a funny hat and sit in the East with two other guys. Went to the Academy of Masonic Knowledge. I did not go to fellowship night. I guess the biggest thing I did was this past Saturday, because I got elected to become principal conductor of work. For whatever reason in Pennsylvania, we do things kind of weird. I never got the super excellent master degree 19 years ago when I got into council. And that is a requirement to be one of the chair officers. So I drove 2 hours to go see that degree work in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. Excellent. And it's one of the better degrees I've ever seen in Freemasonry. So
it's a great degree.
Yeah. So, I don't want to spoil it for you, but it's all written down in the Bible. It's the story of the last king of Judah.
Right.
And how unceremoniously he went out.
You could say that.
Yeah, but so that's it. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back. We have a great guest later in the show that's actually better than we deserve. So it's probably going to set the bar too high for our show. We'll never be able to do it again, but we'll be right back. Hey there, listeners. This is Pete, and I wanted to tell you about MasonicScarves.com. Masonic Scarves offers full-color, knitted soccer-style scarves, perfect for you to wear to lodge, out casually, or even to display in your home. I currently have in our lineup pretty much every Masonic body from Blue Lodge, York Rite, Scottish Rite, Grotto, Shrine. If you think about it, I probably have it. Are you a turtle? Well, you bet your sweet ass I have a scarf for that. So you can easily order online with a credit card, and I'll generally have your scarf in the mail the next business day. Do you need an easy fundraiser for your lodge or organization? I can have a custom scarf design delivered to you in about 4 weeks, as long as you order a minimum of 50 pieces. I can help you with the artwork, and you'll have an original item that you can sell or hand out as a gift for visitors or past masters. Visit MasonicScarves.com or drop me an email at info@MasonicScarves, and I'll be glad to help you. Hey, we're back. It's Pete, Larry, and Jason, Masonic Light Podcast. And if you guys ever want, you can send us some love, hate mail, or fan mail, or money, or whatever you want to send us. Send it to MasonicLightPodcast@gmail.com, or you can leave us a message on our Google Voice number, because we're not going to buy a real landline, because nobody has that. 315-596-2766. Just call and say your name, what lodge, and where you're listening from, and we'll use it as a bumper in and out of the show or something.
What does that spell?
That spells 31559 Mason.
Nice.
Very good. And check us out on our website at MasonicLight.com. So, Larry.
Yes.
It's time for you to shine. We just had an amazing interview when I fixed you with Chuck Dunning.
Yes, we did.
Tell us a little more about Chuck Dunning.
Well, Chuck, it was an honor to have him on, and as I think you had mentioned, probably one of the very excellent guests that we've had on the show in a long time. And not that all of our guests are, get rid of that.
Wow. Nope.
No, get rid of that.
So you're trying to say we only get like minor league guests who happen to be our friends.
So just like
so we got this episode we have a real guest. Yeah. So we actually had a very intelligent, well-spoken, professional author, and he did a great job.
He did really. Chuck Dunning has been a Master Mason since 1988. He's a member of the Blue Lodges and the Scottish Rite Valleys in both Texas and Oklahoma, and also belongs to a number of Masonic research societies. In the Scottish Rite, Chuck is a Knight Commander of the Court of Honor and Director of Education for the Guthrie Valley in Oklahoma, and a class director for Fort Worth Valley in Texas. In 2012, he became the founding superintendent of the Academy of Reflection, which is a chartered organization for Scottish Rite.
And I think the reason why he got along with you, Larry, is his whole career was in mental health. So he actually understood you.
Oh, he did, really. We definitely clicked together. He wrote a book, and it's a fantastic book. He's been writing pieces of this book since the year 2000 on the internet, but he had a lot of anonymous titles. He didn't identify himself. But finally, after a number of years...
Hey, Larry.
Yo.
We cover this in the interview, so let's just go to the interview.
Oh, my God.
Oh, okay. All right. Fine. Go ahead. Chuck Dunning, author of Contemplative Masonry, a guide to and an exploration of Freemasonry through contemplative practices, is our guest today. And Chuck, tell me, explain to me contemplative practices.
Yeah, so contemplative practices is kind of an umbrella term that includes anything that is about focusing the mind to really get deeper into understanding and experiencing something in particular. So one very, I think, well-known form of contemplative or contemplative practice is meditation. And there are many, many different kinds of meditations. Reflective dialogue, two people really sitting down and having a very profound conversation about their understanding of something, and that mysterious thing that happens between people, how their understandings bounce off of each other and enrich each other. That's a contemplative practice. And Mindfulness is a really popular thing nowadays. Mindfulness, that's a contemplative practice as well. So you can see how all of these things are really about focusing the mind to just be really present with something and therefore understand it more deeply.
You wrote a lot of articles back in the year 2000. You went on the internet, and it was anonymous, if I'm not mistaken, and you wrote article after article, and some friends of yours, Freemasons and so forth, said, why don't you put together a book? Tell us a little bit about that process.
Yeah, so I had been fortunate enough to find a bunch of Freemasons in back in the 90s, and when those of us who were kind of into this contemplative side, or what many people refer to as the esoteric side of Freemasonry, we were few and far between. We didn't know much about each other. And thankfully, the internet came along. And so, particularly in the late 90s, there started to form some online communities. And I got involved in one of those. And we were all sharing ideas with each other. And some of us were contemplative practitioners and some weren't. Some were more like scholars and so on. And we just had this really rich experience. And I started sharing, like you said, some ideas about contemplative practice. And they said, all right, what about putting this all together in instruction for anybody that's interested in this? And so I did. And that turned into the original manuscript for Contemplative Masonry that was published in 2000 anonymously, as you said, on mastermason.com. And they hosted that for a long time. We did a slight revision in 2002, but we had a group of people that were actually working with that early manuscript. And then it just kind of sat out there on the internet, and Masons would download it from time to time, and lodges would put it on their websites and so on. But then, times have changed, and I had some other material that I had developed over the years that I thought would improve things. And so next thing you know, I've got this book, and that's how the new book came to be.
That's great. That's awesome. You and I talked yesterday briefly about when did you first become, and I was interested, when did you first become involved in Freemasonry, and when you began to process this idea of contemplative Masonry? Tell me about that. It's a great story.
Yeah. So actually, like a lot of brothers, I grew up in essentially a Masonic family. My dad was a Mason. My grandfather was a Mason. All the men in our church that were really close with our family and that I respected, they were all Masons. And so I grew up with Masonry all around me, but in those days it was old school, and they didn't talk much about their Masonry. They might have worn a ring or something like that, and they might have acknowledged that they were brothers with each other, but they really wouldn't say what was going on in lodge. And despite all that, my dad kept a copy of Morals and Dogma and kept a copy of Lightfoot's Manual of the Lodge out on the family bookshelf. And it was perfectly okay for me to look at those. And so I was about the age of 10 when I started looking at Morals and Dogma and Lightfoot's Manual of the Lodge, and looking at those pictures in the Lodge manual and reading all of those fancy big words that Albert Pike was writing. I just knew there was something really profound and special going on in Freemasonry. And of course, I didn't understand a bit of it. I mean, I was only 10 years old, but it instilled in me this sense of mystery and awe and wonder. And so that kind of turned into a precocious interest in the Greek and Roman pantheons. And I was a nerdy little 10-year-old kid who knew all of the Greek gods and the Roman gods. And then when I went to college, I got hooked up with a philosophy professor. His name is John F. Miller III, and we're really good friends today. But he had a course that he taught called the Ancient Wisdom Traditions, and it was basically a review of the Western esoteric tradition and all of the different ancient mystery schools and so on, and all modern times with Theosophy and Freemasonry and Rosicrucianism. And so as part of that course, we had to do a term project. And that meant we had to do a lot of research. And I went to him and said, I'm really kind of stuck. I know that what I want to do is a term project on an initiatic society, on an initiatic tradition. But right now I'm kind of hung up between Freemasonry and Rosicrucianism because they both have a lot of appeal to me. And he said, well, do you have any family connections with either one of them? And I said, well, yeah, I have a lot of Freemasonry in my family, and I don't know if I have any Rosicrucianism. And then I noticed behind his head in the bookcase, right above his head up here, was the back of Morals and Dogma. And so I said, as I was telling him about the family connection, I said, and in fact, I grew up reading that book right there over your head. And so he reached back up there and got that book and said, there's your term project. And by the time this semester was done, I was ready. I signed a petition, and I was initiated into my father's lodge.
Well, I admire you for reading Pike's Morals and Dogma at the age of 10. I'm in my 70s, and I still haven't been able to get through it.
Oh, believe me, I did what a lot of college students do. I kind of skimmed through big parts of it. There's a lot to read there. A lot to read.
When I read Pike, it's like he's writing to himself. He's trying to hear himself talk.
Yeah, exactly. I think he did like to hear himself talk. And actually, I think it really helps if you read him out loud, because then some of the flow of the words starts to go, and otherwise it can be really hard to follow.
Oh, yeah.
He was pretty verbose.
Oh, yeah. Our guest tonight, author Chuck Dunning of Contemplative Masonry, is with us. I have another question for you, too, and I have to make sure my glasses can read this properly. You wrote in your book that the role of the mentor, or
yes,
as you sometimes refer to the person as the initiator, as an exemplar who can challenge and educate, that's my word, by the way, all brothers. Exactly how does that fit in the contemplative model?
Well, that's a really good question. So let me go into a little more detail about what I mean by a mentor in Freemasonry. What I see exemplified within the structure of Freemasonry and within the ritual of Freemasonry is three kinds of relationship. There's an instructor relationship, there's a companion relationship, and there's an initiator. The companion is just anybody who's there to be with you when you experience something. An instructor is a person who teaches, who has information to pass on to you and helps you learn that information. And an initiator is someone who challenges you before you're allowed to pass on to whatever the next level is of something. So we know that the worshipful master tests the candidate in different ways, and really everybody does, but under the direction of the worshipful master. And so in our initiation rituals, he is obviously the kind of the head initiator, fulfilling that kind of relationship. Well, to me, a mentor combines all three of those things. A mentor is a companion, a mentor is an instructor or a teacher, and a mentor is an initiator, someone who challenges you to make you prove that you are ready to advance. And I think all of that fits within the scope of contemplative masonry, because what we're looking for in a contemplative experience of Freemasonry is great depth of understanding, great depth of experiencing all that can happen within a ritual. Well, what does a companion do? A companion helps you get that depth by being in it with you and just talking about these experiences with you, like brothers do, right?
Right.
And an instructor helps you get that by, probably the best known example in Freemasonry is helping you learn the ritual or learn the proficiency exam that we have in many jurisdictions. And then there's also that testing part of, all of that helps you get a deeper, more profound experience of what Freemasonry has to offer. And that's why all of those things fit within a contemplative umbrella.
I appreciate that. I think it's extremely timely. We're going through a phase in Freemasonry now where we're getting a lot of younger people. And you and I talked about this yesterday, who are coming into the craft, and they come in with certain expectations, and they'll be right up front with you as they're going through initiation. They want to come in because they want to learn about the mystique of our craft. They want more than ritual and going through the officer line. They want to be able to obtain knowledge, and they're really in for depth. And which is kind of very nice with those of us who believe that knowledge and education in our craft is probably one of the foremost things that we can do in our life.
Larry, pause and let the guest talk.
Oh, he says that in every interview I do. So what I was getting at, I think this is so timely that this book has come out, and actually it's the first I've really read this, and thank you for doing what you've done. On another area too, and this is always something that I think all Masons are interested in, and that's esotericism.
Yes.
It is a misunderstood term in Freemasonry.
I think so.
And I think a lot of people have looked upon it unfavorably and favorably at the same time, especially some people that I know that term scares them, or they don't quite understand it. In your book, you have done a masterful job of explaining the term and how to use it to benefit our journey in the craft. Can you tell me about your journey into esoteric Masonry?
Yeah, of course. It goes back to what I was saying earlier in terms of my studies in philosophy, and particularly the course in the ancient wisdom traditions. I understood from that course that all of these initiatic traditions make use of symbolism, and that they make use of symbolism to tap into really deep parts of psyche. And also because my background is in mental health, and I have studied a lot of depth psychology like Carl Jung and others, I understood that those symbols not only have a profound effect upon us, but they connect us with things that are kind of inherent to the human experience, that transcend culture and transcend time. And I knew before I became a Freemason that Masonic ritual had all of those potentials. Not only did I know that, when I read what was available to me about Masonic ritual, like in Morals and Dogma, like in Lightfoot's Manual of the Lodge, it was clear that those authors understood the same thing. And so it was clear then to me that that it's entirely possible to experience Masonry in a way that helps you understand life itself, yourself, and the craft, all in much deeper ways, in ways that would be hidden if we were just kind of taking things at surface value. And that's where the esoteric comes in. The idea that it is something within, something that is hidden. Well, it's only hidden, it only eludes us because we don't look for it. And so essentially what esotericism is nothing more than trying to reveal what may be hidden within the depths of something that you're deeply interested in.
Have you run into any kind of experiences in any of the lodges you may have spoken to with kind of like, how should I say, a hesitancy of wanting to talk about it? You have?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think there are lots of reasons for that. For one thing, I will be the first to say that I have been the kind of esotericist in my past when I was younger who had that attitude of, well, look, guys, I know what this is really all about, and the rest of you are just not being very serious about your Masonry, and what you need to do is be more like me. And boy, I'll tell you, there's just no quicker way to get people to regard you as an ass than to have that attitude. That is not a brotherly attitude.
Yeah.
But it's a tempting one. It is a tempting one because it comes from a desire to take this whole thing as really meaningful and really profound. And that's a good desire, but it gets all mixed up with ego. And then, So the term esotericism becomes a turnoff for people that get that associated with big, huge egos that are trying to tell everybody what things are supposed to be. And then there's another thing, and that is that a lot of times esoteric studies lead into studies of other religions and spiritual traditions, and that can be very uncomfortable for some brothers, and understandably so. We tell people that when they come into Freemasonry, we're not going to try to change their religion. We're not going to try to make Freemasonry their religion. And so that process of looking at other religions or talking about other religions can feel a little too much like that for some brothers. And I completely understand that.
Yeah. Well, let's say you've been on longer than we anticipated, and we enjoy having you on. We could talk to you for hours, by the way, but we don't want to do that.
Well, thank you.
We want to. Larry would do most of the talking.
Tell everybody out there and the many listeners that we have where they can get your book.
Okay, it's available on Barnes & Noble, it's available on Amazon, and there are lots of other small little distributors that have it now. But it's available in hard copy for just under $15, and the Kindle just came out, and it's available for $4.95. One thing I really want to highlight is that my royalties on both the Kindle and the hard copy, all of my royalties go to the Guthrie Temple Restoration and Maintenance Fund for that beautiful Scottish Rite building in Guthrie, Oklahoma. That is, if you've never gotten a chance to see it, you should. It's one of the most beautiful Scottish Rite buildings in the world.
Awesome. That's good. Thank you very much for that. Basically, we've been talking to author Chuck Dunning, C.R. Dunning Jr., actually, and we've had him on the show, and you've been a great guest, and we do thank you for appearing.
I want to ask Chuck a question before you throw Chuck away. You know, I have a very educated guest on the show. So you started off talking about meditation.
Yes.
And my wife tried to dumb it down for me the other day because she's into yoga and all kinds of different things.
Uh-huh.
And she said, like at the simplest, when they do like a weird pose with a weird balancing or something, it's like you're paying attention. You have to pay attention to what you're doing. So, you know, she was trying to explain. So is there a way I could do that in Freemasonry just by paying attention to what's going on around me?
That is absolutely it. I mean, the very first lessons on actual practice in the book focus on mindfulness. And that is the essence of mindfulness, is to just be as completely attentive to the present moment, to be here right now and fully connected with what's going on, instead of also thinking about what happened before you got to Lodge and what's going to happen when you leave Lodge, but to just be really into the moment. And, you know, you can be really focused like that and really attentive without it necessarily having to be this like super kind of serious sort of thing. I mean, I do recommend that when you're trying to be really focused on that you don't let yourself get distracted by, you know, other things that we enjoy in the fraternity, like cutting up and so on. But you're absolutely right. You've nailed it. It's about just really paying attention. So a very simple practice is to just be aware of your breath, just flowing in and out. And that's a good anchor point for the kind of being present that I'm talking about.
Thank you very much. I noticed, I mean, I've probably heard a few hundred degrees in my life, and almost every time I hear a first, second, or third degree, I hear something I never heard before.
Yep.
Even though I know the ritual in and out, like, I'm like, oh, that means something different to me this time.
There you go. That's right. That's right. You see it from a different perspective. And so some of the meaning, the potential meaning within it has been revealed to you. And that's, I mean, you're talking like an esotericist now.
That's the bourbon. That's the bourbon talk.
Bourbon can also be a contemplative practice.
Only because we can't get peyote here in Pennsylvania.
Okay, I'm going to leave that one alone. But
he's in Texas. Give him your address.
Well, it's good having you on the show, Chuck. Take care, and we'll be in touch again. And
thank you.
We'll be glad to have you back anytime you want to come back.
Thank you. It's been a lot of fun, and I really appreciate you promoting the book.
No problem
Thanks
at
so
all.
much.
Then thank you for coming on Masonic Light Podcast. You have a great day, sir.
Thanks, Chuck.
All right. Thanks, guys.
And we're back. Great interview. Thanks to me helping Larry out. And
Oh, come on. Larry did do a good job.
I guess so.
There's just that hump in the middle.
So we've got. So we're gonna shut up now because there's a lot of stuff that we have pre-recorded that's going to be actually good. So we're gonna hear from Brother Seth Anthony.
Seth Anthony.
With his Corpus Obscurum.
Now you got Corpora Obscurum.
Yes, and I believe we've been talking about this for months, but I think Brother on the Street actually recorded something.
He did. It was a good one. It was a good one.
All right, so Brother on the Street. And
we should wrap up with our Academy of Masonic Knowledge interview.
And
I'm not going to ramble.
Then we're going to let you...
We got a new law firm tonight.
Yeah, we're going to come back and ramble,
okay,
of course.
okay.
Yeah.
All right, so let's shut Larry up and let's go to the pre-recorded stuff.
All right.
You're about to enter
Corpora Obscurum.
the realm of weird fraternal organizations.
Leave your Freemasonry behind.
Prepare to meet druids, caliphs, and wild creatures.
Knock thrice.
And enter at your own risk.
Oh, well, look who's back. It's our Masonic Light podcast listeners. On today's Obscura Corporum, we're going to take a look at an organization that symbolism is most often confused with Freemasonry. The Junior Order of United American Mechanics still exists today, but in a very small capacity. The history of the group is rather spotty, leading to even more interesting research for the keen fraternalist. Mr. Paul Bessel, a renowned author on fraternal subjects, offers the following description. The United American Mechanics was founded in Philadelphia in 1845 under the name Union of Workers. It began as a nativist working man's organization to fight against labor pressure from increasing immigration populations, specifically the Irish, Germans, and Roman Catholics. In 1853, a junior branch of the organization was founded. The Junior Order of American Mechanics became an independent society in 1885. Its members were white males between the ages of 16 and 50, of good moral character, believers in the existence of a supreme being, in favor of separation of church and state, and supporters of free education through the public school system. At the height of its popularity, the Junior Order had 200,000 members, dwarfing the high of 40,000 members for its former parent organization. The word junior in the organization's name had no reference to the age of its members after 1885, and similarly, the word mechanic had no relevance to the members' occupations. The Junior Order defined its objectives as promoting the interests of Americans by shielding them from the economically depressing effects of foreign competition, establishing a sick and fraternal fund, and working to maintain the public school system. The order had initiation and obligation procedures which, like other fraternal groups, were religiously oriented. Membership eligibility requirements changed over the years to include Jews, African Americans, Roman Catholics, and women. The Junior Order's mission evolved into one of developing a legal reserve for life insurance benefits. This was due in part to the declining membership in the early 20th century. Membership was divided into two categories: social members and those enrolled in the insurance program. By 1965, insurance memberships had dropped to 35,172, with 15,000 social members. And by 1979, the group boasted only 8,500 social members in total, about half as many as insurance members. The symbol of the order is a square and compass, similar to Freemasonry, within which is a flexing arm wielding a hammer. You can take a look at the logo and one of their fezzes in the fraternal section of the Museum of Fezzology at fezmuseum.org.
Brother on the Street with R.C. McCorvy.
Okay, back by popular demand. It's me, Brother on the Street, RC. And was getting my oil change this morning and walked across the street over here in Columbia. And interesting thing happened. I ran into an older brother, Master Mason, and here he is.
My name's Ed Askey. I belong to Lodge number 286, and I'm a steward and a trustee of the lodge.
How long have you been a Mason?
I've been a Mason going on 42 years.
Okay, it's good to interview you. You've got a lot of knowledge and a lot of wealth. And he never heard of a Masonic Light podcast, so he will be getting the information, and this will be his first time listening to it. And in 43 years, can you give me some different changes and things that's going on in Masonry?
It's become easier with the pamphlets that were handed out when Tom Sturgeon was White Worship Grand Master of Masons about 6 years ago. When I started out, you had to know all 3 degrees. Be proficient in the third, but you needed to know about the first degree and the second degree. Made it tough, but you didn't forget about what you learned. Very rewarding.
What do you see the changes back then, and what do you see different now?
What I see different now is that Freemasonry has become, the Grand Lodge of Pennsylvania has become all-encompassing. You know, color skin should never, ever, ever have anything to do with being a good man. And it's what's here and it's what's up here that counts. And that I'm grateful for, because we have brothers all sizes and shapes and that, and all different colors now. And that's what true brotherhood really is.
Alrighty, so what do you see in the future of Masonry?
Well, I think we need to be more open, be more, like I said, be more compatible with people. I mean, it's changed so much in the nearly 42 years that I've been a Mason. But more interesting in what it is, you know, just not things that are cut and dry, because there's too many young people that will go and become a Mason and they don't come back. And that's sad, because there's so much to learn. Making a good man better.
So my question to you is, you said 43 years?
Going on 43, I'll be 43 years this coming November.
43 years ago, what made you decide to become a Masonry and stick with Masonry?
The camaraderie, the genuine honesty in Freemason, and we have the ability to help others. And that's what you need to be doing.
Oh, I'm really enjoying this interview, man.
You betcha, me too.
Me too. So you're going to tune into Masonic Podcast, Light, L-I-T-E.
Okay.
And this is Brother on the Street live, back by popular demand, on the street, interviewing my brother here. And
Askey.
You guys all have a good day now.
Yes, have a good day.
I'm standing here with Brother Oscar Allen. It's terrible, you know. It's an age thing. Sorry, but we've met before. We were at the Lodge of Research up in Jim Thorpe, Pennsylvania. That's a long story there, and a great presentation you had on clandestine Freemasonry, and it was awesome, just awesome. It was so good, we made you a fellowship.
You certainly did. I still have the orange apron.
You're here today.
Yes, sir.
You just gave a presentation, which was fantastic, on not co-masonry. Companionship.
Yes.
Do you see how confusing that can be? You talk about companionship, Freemasonry in France, and right away you think of the ladies in the lodge.
Yes, well, you know,
so
French have that effect on you.
How did you get interested in the
companionship?
Companionship.
So part of this was I would say, my research into the origins of Freemasonry. And actually, the reason why I got into this particular research topic was around a piece of work I was doing around the symbols. Because everyone had this focus on the symbols and where did the symbols for Freemasonry come about, who did they belong to. And I found quite quickly that there were about 2 to 3 and a few other groups who use the square and compasses in the same capacity that we do as Freemasons. And in some way, shape, or form, in one particular instance, 1 or 2, predated that of the Masonic use. So I was pointed to the French Companion group, an organization, as one such entity that uses square and compasses. So in order to find out more about them, I went to a website. I found a researcher who was actually the head of the Museum for Companionship and Study of Companionship in France, in Avignon, and he and I have been communicating. He wrote a piece on this linkage between Freemasonry, and I asked him, will it be okay if I translated it and brought it to the attention of the American audience in a way that could make sense to them versus that of from a French perspective.
Oh, cool. Have you been to Avignon at all?
I haven't been to Avignon. I've been to Paris, and I've been going
Paris. I know you've been to Paris because you mentioned that in your presentation today.
And the when you go online and you see the museum for the companionship, it's quite spectacular. I did go to the one in Paris. There's a smaller one in Paris, and I met with Jean-Michel there, and we've been communicating. And there's so much terrific stuff that's been shown with respect to the operative guilds and these kinds of organizations.
That is absolutely awesome. It really is.
Thank you.
I don't want to take too much of your time because I know you're going to be back on the stage. But one of the things you and I talked about, we want you to come on Masonic Light podcast.
Oh, most certainly.
And we can do remotes. We can do everything. So basically,
looking forward to it.
We will do it. We'd love to have you on.
It'll be my pleasure.
I need your card. I gave you one of Mars, but
you'll have all my information by the end of it.
So I can communicate with you. Yes. But anyway, that'd be fantastic.
I'm looking forward
to having you on. Really.
Thank you, brother.
Like I said, I've seen a couple of your presentations, and I'm always in awe.
You're too kind.
And also, too, I have the your bio down here. We'll put that on before I bring you on as the the guest on the microphone.
Just say Brother Oscar.
We'll
that's
do
all
the
you need.
right thing.
No, just say Brother Oscar. I'm always fine. I tell people that's all.
Fantastic. Thanks so much for the interview,
Thank
Oscar.
you very much.
Really appreciate it.
All right.
Yeah, and I have by the way, and I'll keep this recorded. We have a bromance. The producer of our show, Jason Lewis, by the way, thinks you're absolutely it. And he had wished he could have been here today.
Uh-oh.
He's got a family commitment. He couldn't
family
get to.
commitment.
His father, which he doesn't get to see too often, is in from somewhere out west.
Okay.
And his father-in-law, I should say.
Oh,
And
yeah,
so
well, that's
basically,
important.
He had to take care of that.
Yeah, that's not an
He
option.
would have been here, and he would have had a picture with you.
Well, tell him that he was missed, and, I look forward to seeing him in person soon.
Jason, what the hell was that?
That's not exactly the phrase I was thinking of.
Oh, Larry. We cannot ever let Larry record anything without us.
I know, and he wants to do interviews at his house alone.
He got let's just because I don't know if he ever said it. Dr. Oscar Alleyne, PhD. He is a wonderful Freemason. I see him everywhere at AMD Week. I see him at the Academy of Masonic Knowledge. He's not just a intelligent person, but he's a good man, and he's great to speak to. And he was very polite that you messed up his name, you messed up his topic, and you messed up like where we were, because you didn't even say Academy of Masonic Knowledge. You made up some other.
Oh, I meant the Academy of Research. Yes, okay.
Oh my goodness. So Oscar, we apologize, and if we have you on the show, if you would ever honor us to be on the show. We'll mute Larry.
Yeah, Pete's going to interview you.
Alrighty.
So what else? What else is going on?
I think you should have already played everything else that was recorded.
Yep.
So I think we're just going to let Larry ramble and we'll get out of here. Do you have anything coming up in the 2 weeks?
Yeah, we should talk about things that we have coming up. And I did want to say, speaking of Academy of Masonic Knowledge, our friend Jack Aquilina just had on Jason Richards. So Jack Aquilina on Brought to Light had on Jason Richards, one of the co-hosts of Masonic Roundtable. So Jack has been making sure that he gets all of the Roundtable guys on, and he's talked about education, podcasting, yada, yada. But Jason Richards' big hummer is Masonic education. He does some stuff with his Grand Lodge and his jurisdiction down in the D.C. area and Virginia area. And he said that Pennsylvania is way ahead of the curve. He said there's, out of all the research he's done, there's nothing like Academy of Masonic Knowledge, and gave really big kudos to things that are happening in Pennsylvania, which, I think that sometimes as Pennsylvania Masons, we take for granted, especially being central Pennsylvania Masons, because I didn't realize how big of a deal Academy of Masonic Knowledge is, and it's literally 15 minutes away from us here. So I just thought that was pretty neat.
Larry, do you have anything coming up in the next 2 weeks?
Next couple of weeks, other than Lodge in 2 weeks, and Goose and Garrote Iron breakfast. No, kind of.
You coming to Tall Cedars tomorrow?
No, I'm not.
Thanks a lot, Larry. Jason, are you coming to Tall Cedars tomorrow?
I am not coming to Tall Cedars tomorrow, but I will tell you why. Tomorrow, I volunteered, and I'm excited to help out, but I was asked to be a honor guard at Stacy Meeker's installation in Amaranth, and Stacy is our friend and brother Seth Anthony's betrothed, and I believe they're getting married later this year, but she asked if I would come and serve in Amaranth, which I am a member, so I'm going to go do that.
Sounds kind of cool. So I guess I let the cat out of the bag. I've got junior senior night at Tall Cedars tomorrow night. And that's where we invite all the other junior deputy Grand Tall Cedar and senior deputy Grand Tall Cedar from our district. It's black tie. It's a nice night. Okay, well, maybe. Let's see. Wednesday, I'm getting a crown.
Crown?
I'm getting a new tooth.
Oh. Gotcha.
Yeah, not that kind of crown. Next Tuesday, I'm going to see Britt Floyd in Hershey. So I guess that's it for Freemasonry. So that's it.
Yeah. Wednesday, I might attend that virtual lodge that everyone's been talking about, but we'll see how that plays out. Scott, who wants to go do that too?
Larry, take us out of here and let's end the misery.
All right. Banjo music, please. Special thanks to Monarch Studios for hosting us again and letting us continue to record here. We really do appreciate that. Our producer and co-host, Jason Lewis, for continuing all the magic he does. And let me tell you, folks, if you'd see this S show, you'd realize how good this guy is. Pardon?
You're too kind.
Also, our news director, Jack Harley, who is visibly absent again tonight. Jack,
sometimes, like when you decide that in 23 hours before the show that you're changing the time to 5 o'clock on a weekday.
No excuse.
Jack actually is gainfully employed.
Yes, he is. Yes.
Unlike us.
But he is going to a Ephrata Borough Council meeting tonight for whatever reason.
Because he probably cares about his community?
Oh, I guess, whatever. Anyway, also R.C. McCorvy, Brother on the Street, which we have an interview, which Jason has integrated in the show. Also, too, special thanks to...
How about Joey? How about, even though it was last episode?
Joey Dougherty for providing that grotto music. That is awesome. Absolutely awesome.
We'll come out again. We'll take the show out with that this week.
It sounds great. Sounds great. And we do have a new law firm, folks. A new law firm. Long Ball. No, I'm sorry. Oh, God, I messed this up.
Long Duck Dong?
No. The new law firm is Low Ball and Lynch.
That's better than Long Ball.
Yeah, Long Ball. Low, L-O-W-E, Ball and Lynch. Great law firm, still practicing, doing business today. We're mentioning it because it's a unique name as law firms go. Better than Pain and Fears.
Breaking news. Saturday, April 22nd at in Elizabethtown, the D. Molay are having a chicken pot pie dinner, so everybody get on high alert.
What time is that?
It is 3:30 to 7 p.m. $8 per person, $4 per child, or $12 if you're Jason because you eat 5 servings.
Oh man! Earlier in the day is that same day is the James Buchanan wreath laying, and Lodge 43 guys go in tails, and we stand at attention.
They're having a Chinese auction, and I could really use 1 or 2 of them, so I'm excited.
There you go. Oh man!
I thought I was taking us out of this place.
All right, good night, everybody.
All right, whoa! I want to finalize the rambling here. One more thing to say, and this is very important. To plan for tomorrow is a good idea, but you better have a plan for that plan, because we have no idea how any of those plans will turn out.
You've used this one.
No, I didn't.
And it's still horrible.
No,
I swear.
I didn't.
All right, I'll tell you what. For our listeners, if you go back and if I'm right, then you get nothing. If I'm wrong, you can get, what do we have?
Well, let's put it like this.
We'll send you a pin.
Okay. The unknown is a state of mind. The unknown is a state of mind that exists somewhere.
Okay. Goodbye, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
Hi, whoa. I want to. Okay, basically, here we go. We're going to go 1, 2, 3. Chuck Donner. Never mind, we'll do it again. 1, 2, 3. Hi, whoa. I want to. Sorry, guys. I didn't think I used that one before. I really didn't.
Focus factor.
Oh, hell. If you didn't have me doing this, the show wouldn't be worth shit.